Hey, I'm Rob.
And I'm Mike.
And we're just two normal lads exploring the mysterious, the controversial, and the conspiratorial.
Join us each week down the rabbit hole for our latest exciting discussions, ideas, and tinfoil banter.
Tinfoil Banter. Serious questions, questionable conclusions. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of Tinfoil Banter. What better way to start a conspiracy-based podcast than talking about aliens? One of my favourite topics in the world, something I spend way too much time reading about. I love the lore behind it, the stories, the sci-fi, and everything around it. Mike, tell us about why you like aliens.
What's not to like about aliens? Well, I'm a sci-fi fan, and I've worked in archaeology, and archaeology and aliens seem to go hand in hand. I didn't do Egypt. I did British Neolithic archaeology, landscape usage. Geophysics, which has come up recently in Egyptology, pyramids, looking into the ground. But in terms of aliens, I'm a healthy skeptic, but healthy nonetheless. I go to the gym and I look for news articles.
So we can, interesting you put pyramids and aliens in the same sentence already. I think that in itself is already totally controversial. So good stuff. I think maybe we need to define first of all what we sort of feel is a good term for alien life. Obviously, we hear the word UFOs, unidentified flying object. That's the old term, or UAPs, and those are unidentified aerial phenomenon. So, but what is an alien to you? What does that word mean to you? What do you associate with it?
Well, anything that's extraterrestrial, anything that isn't off terra firma, terra being the scientific name for Earth, is any kind of life that is off of planet Earth, originating from planet Earth. So anything from a tiny little microscopic microbe of life to anything that could be potentially bigger. So, but then again, you could go down with what is life. Obviously, biological. Does it have to be self-aware of itself? Because we could go down the tiny route of microbes. That could be life.
Sure. I think, well, a few interesting there. Like UAPs actually I think it was changed because they wanted to cover also stuff that was coming out of the water, not just out of the sky, which is really interesting. So there's the concept of maybe like alien life, whatever it might be, actually coming from the sea, not just from the sky. So then that kind of contradicts the theory of it being extraterrestrial, right? Yeah, I think your point about life is really interesting. I guess it doesn't also have to be necessarily like biological, because if the let's say it's a mechanical thing we're seeing that's sent here from the future, from wherever, to do like, because if you think about it, we can't go to like outside of the universe, outside of our solar system, because of like time and science. We haven't managed to do that, and let's say they haven't either. But let's say, why do you have to think that we're going? Maybe it's just like like we sent Sputnik out, right? Like, like it could be a satellite or something like that, rather than an actual something piloting it. So there's that point as well.
So that would be material culture of extraterrestrial life forms.
Yeah, and that really feeds into like a lot of the classic conspiracy theories about. So, for example, like Bob Lazar, I don't know if you know who he is. He's like the guy from the 90s who basically alleged that he had worked at S4, which is essentially Area 51, and that he'd worked on trying to reverse engineer a propulsion system from a craft that had been captured or obtained. Now, he didn't know where it came from. He just claims he just worked on trying to understand the propulsion, and he's got loads of videos talking about the propulsion. And whether you believe that story or not, it's a really interesting point, because that in itself, as far as I understand it, is just observing a vehicle, essentially, not a biological being. But then you've got stories from like David Grush, who's the whistleblower in the United States. He's the one that's basically come out and said, we've got all of these US programs. I say we, the US have got all of these programs that have been keeping secret or investigating alien life. He claims that they've got alien crafts. He claims they've got biological beings of some sort. Like, all of this stuff is the reason that the UFO stuff's been recently discussed in Congress so much recently, and also as the result of the recent release last Friday, I think it was, when the US released more UFO files, which I think is a really interesting, it's quite serendipitous, because we've been trying to do this podcast for ages. We wanted to start with something. We weren't sure about aliens. We've jumped into aliens anyway, and it just so happens that a couple of days ago they've released the UFO files. So I think that's all interesting.
Typical, they release it on a Friday, so they don't have to answer any awkward questions on the next day. They've got a weekend to make up their story.
It's a new release day, isn't it? Like back in our music days, Friday was the day you used to release new music. They'll release it's their latest hits. It's like, Epstein files, JFK files, what's the UFO files?
Let's hope it's not an awkward second album.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, just distracting us from the big picture. But hey ho, that's why we're here, is to distract people from the big picture, because life is a bit crazy right now, and talking about aliens and UFOs is quite fun. You don't have to really believe in it. You don't necessarily. It's just nice to talk about, and the results of that is kind of an interesting conversation. So we kind of discussed, is it inside the solar system, is it outside the solar system, non-human life, and how it's come here. I guess there's a big question, which is why and when. Okay, let's start with when. When do you think, if an alien life form has existed and it started coming to our planet or making itself known on our planet, when do you think that might have started?
Probably time immemorial. They're so far advanced that the centuries and millennia, to them, they've probably been coming all the time. If indeed they're about. Their technology is so far advanced that centuries is nothing to them.
That's interesting, because obviously if we were to be able to time travel or travel at the speed of light or whatever, essentially we'd be time traveling, right? Because you're defying Einstein's relativity. So you would essentially you'd be defying time as well as space, right? So that means you'd be able to also go back in time, forward in time. Whoa. And exist maybe in multiple times. So that's pretty crazy. That's maybe a little bit too far to the one side, but
if I was thinking if they lived on a linear trajectory as we do, then if they've got the technology to come visit us now, they've probably had that for quite a while.
Yeah, that's interesting. So why do you think why here?
If I was to put myself in their space shoes, I would see this as a zoo planet, and they'd be coming on safari.
Now, when you say space shoes, are you talking like a trainer, a heel? What we saying? Because I think of space boots, but they're more advanced than us, so maybe they've got space etnies.
They could do space clogs. Depends.
Space clogs. Yeah, the German ones, they have space clogs.
Ethnic shoe for each alien.
Bavarian alien. Good stuff. So what? Sorry, did we ask what? Did you answer why? Why do you think? Why
do they come here? Yeah, as a safari. There's
safari. Okay, yeah.
There's two schools of thought. I think they would be protecting us in the same way that maybe we would protect the safari animals. They would protect us as well.
So you think they're morally, they're like the vegans of the universe? They're like the ones that are no, don't kill the cow.
They are space
don't
vegans.
Eat the cow. These guys are don't kill the humans. They're idiots. They're blowing each other. They're gonna kill themselves. But leave them to it. Don't. Do you reckon there's lots of different aliens and they've got their own thing going on, or do you think it's just one alien race, species?
We're going down to Star Trek. There's going to be a few different aliens. But then they'd be fighting over us all.
Yeah, so I was wondering if there's these vegan aliens, but then there's these there's carnivorous aliens that are no, those humans that look tasty as hell, again, I want some
delicacy though.
Yeah.
We wouldn't need something they'd need to farm, because with the technology they've got, I'm sure they've figured it out how to get meat and things we're good for. We'd be a delicacy.
Yeah, like when we ate all those turtles in the 1800s.
We are the turtles in turtles.
There was a turtle. There was turtle soup, wasn't it? And we just ate it so much that that turtle was extinct. Anyway,
how about yourself? Do you think they've come to visit? If so, since when?
Well, I really like the idea that they're kind of intertwined in our own history. So it kind of it goes into a different conversation, which probably will end up having a separate episode for, I guess. But like, I like the idea that the reason we're as advanced as we are is because there was intervention that's outside of like evolution or biology, and the like panspermia idea as well is quite cool. So the idea that things come from outer space for us to be here in the first place. So maybe, like, I'm not saying like aliens came down and built the pyramids and like guided the way until like 10,000 years ago, but it's a cool idea. It's a very Graham Hancock vibe, but like it's cool. It's a fun idea, but like I do wonder if like the reason that we advanced so quickly throughout time or to a particular level is because there was some sort of intervention. So with that in mind, I wonder if their reason to come back here is almost like sentimental, like because they are like we're like partly them.
Potentially.
Which is quite a
Like
again
your own hometown after you've been to uni.
Yeah, like I personally believe aliens exist in some form. I haven't settled on what they are. I personally believe there's something out there just because of Fermi's paradox, right? It almost has to be just down to pure statistics and math. There has to be something else out there. But then when it comes to discussions like are we part alien? For me, I don't believe in that. I just like the idea of the story behind it and the idea behind it. And I do think there's a lot we don't know about our own history. A lot we don't know about our own planet, our own oceans. And the more we learn about that stuff, the more we might find out that things aren't as they seem, or that the story that we've written about our past isn't necessarily strictly true. I mean, we'll talk about the pyramids in a separate one for sure, but there's a whole conspiracy around them maybe not being as old as they are, and maybe not being as new as we thought they are. Sorry, like they turn out to be maybe like 10,000, 15,000 years old. And then it begs the question even more about how they were built. And there's still a lot unknown there, but we'll talk about that separately. But yeah, so I really like the idea of the ideas around it. I definitely believe there's something out there, and this time of like UFO disclosure is really exciting for me. But I guess here's a question for you, Mike. Like if you were like the UK government, and you had found out at some point in time that aliens existed and X, Y, and Z, and then here's all the details around it, how would you go about disclosing that information if it were to happen? Or would you?
I don't know if there was a major event that they would have to... I don't think they'd be able to contain it. If there was an alien that actually crashed in a very densely populated place, they'd have questions to answer from the general public. And so I don't think actual disclosure would be in the real world. I think it would be an accident that they'd be forced to disclose it.
Okay, so a lot of people think on the sort of disclosure side of things think that there have been many instances of that, like Roswell, the Foo Fighters in World War II, loads of subsequent things. Like there's that U.S. Air Force Sergeant or Captain David Fravor, I think his name is, and he visually saw things in like 2014, and they've got radar footage of it, and it's one of the three most common sightings of UFO footage ever. So there's three really famous ones. There's that one, which is called the Tic Tac. There's the gimbal, and there's the Go Fast. And those three videos are like the closest thing we have to like visual proof. Then obviously everyone knows the story about Roswell. So like the idea of being there that these things have happened, but they have been like locked behind closed doors. I mean, Roswell was initially announced publicly to the news, and then they said it was a weather balloon, and they put a counter story out straight away. So it's like maybe these things have happened and have been covered up.
We just need to wait for a big event where it crashes on the outskirts of Paris, and there's so much video, there's news crews there, then they'd be forced to. I don't think they'd ever be willing to release this information willingly because of the panic it would cause. It would have to be a forced of the hand to be declared.
I also wonder if like the content as well is part of it, right? Like, for example, if they've known for ages about there being something else out there, and let's say the result of finding that out is that we're like farmyard animals and we're like just cow, like you said, with cows for slaughter, right? That's a pretty messed up thing to announce to 6-7 billion people, right? And say, you know, all your religions are a lie for a start. all of this heaven and hell, it doesn't exist. And by the way, you thought you were the most apex species. You're not even close. I think that would kind of shatter society. So it's the question of like, if that was the truth, you would do your utmost to never let that out, because a broken system is better than knowing that, right?
The only thing I can think that they'd be harvesting us for is there's something that happens after death, like some kind of spiritual energy that they're harvesting, and this life and religion is set up for you to live and die peacefully so they could harvest the energy. Now I'm going down.
Nah, I love that. Yeah, that's a real thing too.
Harvesting. Otherwise, they could have picked us up and slaughtered us already. Or maybe
True.
It's an elaborate farm already, and we don't know.
Or unless, I guess it comes to that question of what we're here for too. Like if it's like for their purpose, maybe we're supposed to be building AI, or like we're supposed to be building something better than ourselves, and that's why they keep us around, so that or maybe we're the AI for them. We're their AI. Does that make sense? Like they've just set us on a job to build something that's going to take millennia, but as you said, that means nothing to them.
Nothing.
We'll build, and meanwhile they're carrying on with like alien shit. It just that's an interesting like view on it for sure.
Do you think they would do a disclosure, or they're already breadcrumbing us now with
100%. That's actually what I genuinely believe. I genuinely believe that they've known about it for a long time. I believe a lot of the sightings that we know about and have been spoken about, ones I've mentioned today especially, did happen. I do personally like the idea of Bob Lazar actually working on one of those crafts in the 90s. I know in the 90s he was like framed as like a nutter, and like people like were questioning his educational background, but he's come back around more recently. He's stuck to his stories, and I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff there. He's an interesting character as well, and he's clearly like a genius, so like I think he's worth listening to. I think a reason I think it's been like drip fed is like sci-fi. I feel like sci-fi is kind of part of that, and I think that was kind of like dropping the seed for us to understand these ideas. I also feel that maybe that some stuff has been reverse engineered from these crafts, perhaps. So like there's a conspiracy that the Bell, I think it's called like the Bell Tower in New York, this like where night vision goggles came from, where fiber optics came from, those sorts of inventions. There's this conspiracy that they came from them reverse engineering an alien craft, which I think that's a really fascinating idea, that maybe we've been slowly learning more about these things and then have been introducing that technology to the world. Maybe that's where the internet came from. Who knows, right? Like,
if we're going to go through like a concept of deep time, I'm going to have to quickly jump back to the Egyptians. The ancient Egyptian civilization was around 3,000 years in time. Now, if we went back 3,000 years from today, where we are, we'd be in the late Bronze Age. Now, if you think about us from the late Bronze Age to what we're doing now, the Egyptians had all that time to fill in the gap. From the late Bronze Age in Britain to now, that's a massive gap. But think of the jump in technology.
Well, it seems that in that Egyptian period, we learned and lost something, because no one seems to know how we built those pyramids, really. And I've never had a real convincing argument as to how those stones are moved. But I really do think we should have a pyramid one separately, because it does tie into it.
Hold back the Egyptians.
Yeah, but it's definitely going to intertwine back into aliens, like, because the angle I like on that is alien related for sure, or at least I do like the idea of it being maybe an advanced civilization that had harnessed something that maybe we don't know about.
The loss of knowledge is not as uncommon if you think about
exactly.
After the Romans left, we had a different culture come in. To be fair, so they didn't. I can't imagine they'd want to do hypercourse tiles and different tepid rooms to go into, but we definitely lost technology like the Roman concrete, their version of concrete. We didn't use that anymore thereafter.
So, Mike, just to summarise, then, if you were to give your opinion on aliens and their existence? I think I've done that already. What would your view be? Like, if you had to gun to your head right now, someone said, "What do you believe when it comes to aliens?" What would you say?
I'd say there's historical evidence of aliens potentially existing on Mars. Europa, I think, is a moon. I can't remember which planet it is.
Jupiter
has its sea. There could be life there. has it come to visit us? I don't know. I would like to think that there have been. I'd love that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's similar to me. It's like you're a skeptic naturally, but like the idea of it's really fun. Yeah. I think it's interesting.
If we're alone, though, does it matter if we're alone?
Well, right now we are, right? Like as far as we're aware, we really are, and that's been fine. But I think the thing I always wonder is if we were to all find out that there was something else and that we weren't the only thing here, would it change things in terms of like left and right politics and religious wars, and would it unify us in the sense of saying, hey, we're a one human species, right? And there's these other species as well, and we might need to be worried about some of those other species. And maybe now it's time that we kind of put some of those differences aside and start to unify. Because if you imagine how much we've achieved as separate nations and progressed, and I do appreciate that competition definitely contributes towards that, like the space race between the US and Russia, right? Perfect example of like the competition striving it. But I do believe
better with cooperation.
Right. This is the thing. And what if the whole world was involved? And what if all of the nations were involved? And what if all of the best minds were put to something? And it was about
wins every time.
That's competition's healthy, I do think. But if you find out there's a different competition from another planet, maybe I think a bit of unification would help, because I do think right now we're permanently being armed against each other, left and right, especially politically. I see myself as more of a centralist at this point, but like what I hate is how media drives right and left against each other, when in reality you're all kind of striving for the best thing, what you think is best for society. And yes, you might come from it from different angles, but the key thing is that you should have a discussion about it. And I think the media drives so much hatred that the left hates the right and the right hates the left. And what that means is no one's talking. So you're not like progressing. So if we were all to find out that there's aliens, wouldn't that kind of just be like a bit of a reality check and go, hey guys, we're just like arguing about like immigration versus like taxing billionaires.
We've
like
got some new immigrants and they're intergalactic.
Yeah, get your nukes ready, boys. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. I think there's something wholesome about the idea of aliens, and potentially something that could bring cohesion in a time of a lot of displace. But anyway, this is supposed to be a distraction from all of that chaos. So yeah, love the idea of aliens. Personally, if you want to read more about like aliens, I would definitely recommend like the Bob Lazar story. I think that's something that everyone should check out and make their own opinion about. I would definitely check out David Grush, because I think his whistleblowing on what he knows and what he's found out has been the main driving force for the release of these US UFO files recently. And there's been a lot of discussions in the Senate about that stuff. And again, whether you believe it or not, hearing that discussed in a US governmental scenario is kind of a little bit mind-blowing. So, and then finally, I would check out David Fravor as well, the pilot that caught the Tic Tac incident. I think that's the most convincing one for me. That's the one that I heard, and it changed me, going from being a real skeptic to actually I quite like the idea of this, and maybe there is something here. So to our mums listening to this, go and check out those three people, and maybe finally you'll believe in aliens just like me. Anyway, Mike, any closing thoughts before we wrap up our first ever Tinfoil Banter podcast?
No, thank you for setting it all up, because I've done nothing apart from plug in a microphone.
And you did it with such style, as always. All right, catch you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye, Mum.